So photographers, cinematographers, and even painters for that matter have all faced the same dilemma when it comes to creating good images, and that is how do you show a three-dimensional subject in a two-dimensional frame? Because when you add depth, it creates a sense of place and helps draw your audience into the frame. So let's look at how to create this depth by framing your subject in a frame. Hey everyone, Camber here, showing you how to use your camera to make good videos. So if you're new, consider subscribing and also joining my private Facebook group where you can get more personalized help on your filmmaking journey. But anyways, what is frame in a frame? Well, this is a compositional technique where you use some kind of frame in your image to draw your viewers into the shot and guide their attention towards your subject. For example, let's take a look at this clip. Good night, sweetie.
Dad.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too. So here I'm right up against a closed door and a wall, so everything's very flat and there's no depth to the image at all, and there's not really any way to get depth if we keep it this way. So let's try it again with the door open. Nice, sweetie.
Dad.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too, honey. So now I'm framed within a door frame, and granted we don't see the whole top and bottom of the door, but you get the idea that now it's not as flat, we get a lot more depth in it, and the change in lighting behind me helps to add to that depth even more. So using this frame in a frame is a simple way of adding depth and making for a more interesting composition in your shot. So let's look at some movie examples that utilize this frame in a frame for a more interesting look. Here in Get Shorty, we see Chili Palmer walking up to the booth and looking around for his jacket. In the frame, we see him within a frame, which shows us where he is, but also adds a lot of depth behind him in the shot. And in this shot, Will Smith's son is initially framed in the middle window frame, drawing our attention to him. They could have easily switched to another angle here once he got inside, but keeping this angle allows them to frame him in another pane, which draws our attention to that part of the image. And then here we have a mirror used as a frame for the subject. This gives a sense of depth to the frame because we can see the actual subject on the right in the foreground while we're focusing on his reflection in the mirror. In this scene, we have the actors framed within a window while we see their silhouettes fighting. And it's actually the frames on the right and left sides of the shot that give us more of that sense of depth in the image. And then later in the same sequence, we see a woman who is framed by the opening in the building across from James Bond. Again, here we have all the main subjects focused within a frame in the scene, giving more depth to the image. In this scene, the subject is within a frame on a flat wall that automatically makes your eyes lock onto him. And then later in that scene, the same frame is used closer up to continue that same framed look while he's eating his meal. And finally, we have one of my favorite uses of the frame in a frame technique where the subject is far off at the end of a hallway. Not only does this door frame draw your attention to him, but this shot also combines the technique of leading lines using the edges of the hallway floor as well as a line along the wall that guides your eyes right down toward the subject. Now that you've seen this, you'll probably start to notice a lot more of the frame in a frame technique used while watching films. So when you are framing your shots, take some time to move around and try different angles that you may not normally think of so you can figure out a way to frame your subject within a frame if it makes sense for your shot. And if this video was helpful, then please help me out by leaving a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you soon.